name is Marie Smurthwaite. I'm in the North Hills YSA ward, and I moved here from Rexburg about 6 months ago to North Carolina, and I needed to find a job. I was looking, I tried all sorts of different jobs based off of jobs I'd had before, like in customer service and food service, and I asked around my friends, and I wasn't finding anything, and I was getting a little discouraged and sad. And my uncle, who I was living with, he said, hey, there's a class, Find a Better Job class that the church teaches, and there's this guy named Bob Henderson, and he's really good, and you should take the class. And I said, okay. I mean, I might as well, like, I've tried everything else. And so I took the class, and it was a 6-week class, meeting once a week, and that first week we talked about defining what it is that you want to find, right? Like, what job? And that was a huge step, because I hadn't even thought about, okay, well, what job do I actually want? And it helped me narrow down my search. And we also talked in the class about networking. And I'd heard about networking in college, they taught us about it, and I just thought it was, like, silly, and I felt like I was selling something and not being honest. When I was like, hello, give me a job, you know, but the way that it was taught was that, no, this is you know, asking for help and acting in faith, really. And so I said, okay. And so that first week when we learned about it, I made 31 contacts, and out of those 31 people, which were like my friends and my family members and people I knew, 6 of them gave me a name of somebody that worked in the field I wanted to work in. And out of those 6, 2 of them actually got back to me, and one of them helped me actually apply for a job. And even though I didn't get that specific job, it showed me that acting in faith, even when you feel like it might not work, and kind of trusting in Heavenly Father is going to help. And so networking, it was huge. I plan to actually continue networking, even though I have a job now. I start on Monday. Another thing we talked about in the class was resumes. And actually, before the class even started, the teacher of the class, Bob, met with me and helped me look at the resume I had and make changes to it to make it more accurately reflect what my skills are. Because a resume just tells people who you are. And if it doesn't do that, it's not doing its job. And we talked about making sure that you were being honest, but also showing your best self. And so that was really helpful. And that resume that I made, I was able to even take it a little bit further and work on it a little bit more, and I got an interview for a job. And it was in a position that I really wanted, a technical writer position. And in the interview, the interviewer person that was talking to me over Zoom said, your resume was really good. It really stood out. And I was like, you mean the resume that I worked really hard on in the class? I didn't say that, but I thought it. In preparation for that interview, another thing we talked about in the class was preparing for the interview using power statements. And that's talking about experiences you have and connecting them with skills that they need. And I was able to prepare for the interview by writing down all the questions I thought he might ask, and then making power statements to answer every single question. And then I studied it and prepared in that way. And lucky for me, it was on Zoom, so I had a printed out version of my notes right there that I could look at. But even if I didn't, I had taken the time to study it, and I'm certain the Heavenly Father was helping me too. Some of the things in the class I wasn't good at, like the me in 30 seconds, I never got the hang of that. I always went over. So I had the interview, and then after some processes and like a background check and everything, finally they called me last week and they were like, welcome to the team. And I was like, yay! And then they were like, when can you start? You're gonna start on Monday. And I was like, okay. If I hadn't gone to the class, or even if I hadn't been listening before the class started and before I knew about it, two kind of promptings from Heavenly Father, like, hey, you need to take action and not feel sorry for yourself. You need to act in faith. That was the biggest thing, is acting in faith. And once I did that, taking the class and learning the skills and taking action, even when it felt like it wasn't going to work, that's what made all the difference. And that's what helped Heavenly Father help me get the job. And I'm really grateful.